Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and I'm back with another episode of my Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2020 playthrough. We are just about to start the second season with Penn State here. Got our first game, non-conference, against the Campbell Camels coming up. I've been working a lot since that last episode offline on recruiting, get my depth charts set up. I'll go over that and then sim through some of these games, and it'd be nice if we could get through most of the non-conference part of the schedule, if not all of it. But we'll see how it goes. We have, I would think, a pretty generous start to the season. We've got one tournament that we're going to be in, playing St. John's to open it, but a lot of home games here. I don't know. It's going to be a toss up whether we finish, with a decent record going into Big Ten play. But I'm hoping we do pretty good. The better we start out, the better we're going to be. I'm at the dashboard here, which is where I usually start, and you can tell this team is not. I just don't know how competitive we're going to be still, and we've got some young players with room to develop. I'll give you an example like Eddie Perry here, small forward with a 4-star potential. He's going to get more play hopefully this year. I'll show you on the depth chart, but he's got a couple of guys, a couple of juniors ahead of him who are just rated a little bit better right now. We've got a power forward, the only power forward that we have, true power forward on scholarship. He's got a 4-star potential. He's going to get a lot of play this year. He's a junior. So if we survive this year, it's really going to be a transition year. You can see we have 2 guys rated 3-star overall. We got a couple of guys at 2.5, and that's it. We don't really have a true superstar on this team. I don't think anybody's going to be getting any awards postseason, like all conference teams or anything like that. I think we're just going to have to be scrappy and hope that the system that I have in place for them, using the offensive sets I've got, hopefully that keeps us in the mix. But I really feel like it's going to be a challenge this year, and even with this team, more of a challenge than probably I thought. But let's go over a few things and then we'll get started. I want to go back and revisit this office location just to tell you what we're up against going into this season. Our job security is low. It's no longer at 100%. They're really wanting us to finish above 500, qualify for the NIT, improve school prestige. I think we even went down last year, even though we had a better year. I thought, but our prestige I think was 2.5 when I took over this team, and now we're at 2. Still in a high prestige conference, so if we can just compete this year, I think we'll be all right. If you look at the history of the school, I mean, I don't think they can be too upset with us. I mean, 14-16, that's the best record we've had since I've been playing this game in that 2019 season. But this year is really make or break. If we can't really be competitive, I'm probably going to have a short career here, but we'll see how it goes. I think one of the things that's been a surprise is recruiting is still a tough thing to do with this game. I think it's easier with Penn State than it was with Austin Peay, but I'm still having some challenges, and I'll go over that right now before I move over to the depth chart. But one of the things that happened last year, we only had one scholarship available, and I was going for centers, and I recruited this guy early. He was a 3-star, and I went for him early, and then his rating started to tank. And I've done the same again this year. We've got 3 scholarships open, and just to jump over the dashboard and show you my thinking on this. With 3 scholarships available, and I look at the roster, it looks like we've got two seniors that are going to be gone from the shooting guard position. We do have a couple of scholarship athletes, though, at that position, so it's not as big a deal to me. Then we look at small forward. We have three guys who are going to come back next year, small forward. So that shouldn't be that big of a deal. But one of these guys is probably going to be an odd man out. And I'm still going for small forward. But then the big thing is with power forward, we got one walk-in on and one guy on scholarship who has a lot of potential, but this is going to be, in Jennings, this is going to be the first year he's getting a lot of play time. And that happened because the guy that was set to start for us this year transferred out, and that was a big blow. But I'm looking at this, and I'm still, based on the recruits that are available, I'm looking at one each at shooting guard, small forward, and power forward. And I went with a small forward off the bat because I thought he was the best recruit that I was able to get, and that's James Ratcliffe. And I think, even though it's early, I've already got a verbal from him. I went ahead with this guy because he's improving. You know, it seems like he's on the upswing in his ratings. He's looking better than he looked when we first started scouting him. He's got a decent size. I still hope that he's somebody I could possibly put in the power forward if I needed to. And so I went ahead and went with him. But the other two positions, power forward is still a tough one. Shooting guard, though, is even tougher. And I'll look at that, I guess, since it's up. There are no in-state recruits at shooting guard. I mean, looking at the full recruit list, that's crazy to me. But from our region, there are no in-state recruits here. And that's been a big problem with shooting guard. So luckily, we've got some guys coming back, but I'm still trying to go with somebody. And I think what I'm looking at here is between these two guys, Peter Peterson and Nathan Billups. I think Billups is the guy I may have a better chance with. No, it might be, yes, Peterson. He's right now we're his fifth school in his top 10, and his ratings are also going up. So I'm hoping to work on this guy and start, getting areas where I can pitch him so that we're currently in the quiet period, but when we get to that next contact, if he's still available, it's all the way into March, I'll visit him and give him the hard sell and hopefully get something from him. But that's no guarantee on him. But then on power forward, that's still, I think, a big area we need to develop. And right now it's just, I've got some questions. Tom Glover, a 3-star, he's probably the best recruit. We're currently third on his list of schools, but his GPA is 2.2. And this is what happened with our center recruit last year. Even though his ratings weren't as high as the season went on, and I was kind of lucky, and glad to see him go, but he was unable to meet the minimum on the SAT, and so he didn't get in. And I think that's the problem with Glover here. So I'm kind of working these other guys here, like Keith Condill, whose ratings unfortunately have gone down, but he started off the recruiting period rated a lot higher. He's currently, we're his second school, but I'm liking I'm really liking this guy down here, Dennis Anderson. No, sorry, not Anderson, but Reichart. I think this guy, his ratings are going up. He has incredible size, 6'11", 241 pounds, a good GPA, so he's academically sound. I might take a gamble on this guy because I feel like he's got some upside, and I'd be willing to go with somebody like this just to get him in there and maybe develop him. And I'd probably rather do that than go with somebody who's, like Condell, whose ratings keep going down. But I'm hoping I'm going to have some time to work on these guys. But right now, I'm really working primarily on Reichart, and I think I just scheduled him to visit. Yeah, he is scheduled to visit campus in this next week. I think that hopefully will make a big difference. Even though he's a 1-star, I think his numbers are good in high school. I think he's going to be a surprise, and that's one of the things I enjoy about playing these kind of games. Every once in a while it's fun to just take a pick that you just got some gut instinct about. And for me, in this recruiting class across all 3 positions, he's the one. He's the guy I just feel like has some upside. So that's it for recruiting. I mean, recruiting is just it's such a big part of this game and so hard to figure out. But I'm hoping that we get those 3 positions filled with some quality recruits. And I think we've already got one good quality recruit, even though, I know we're not as weak in that position going into the next year as power forward. So we'll see how it turns out. And a lot of that's going to depend on this year too. As we look at the depth chart, I've got some small forwards that I'm putting into that power forward position. I'm hoping that has some payoff. Like Lee here, who's I think his size is pretty decent. He's got some good defensive capabilities there, abilities, certainly potential-wise. I'm hoping this guy can look sharp enough at power forward. Same with Perry, who's a little bit better size-wise, got a little bit better potential in some of these defensive categories. I'm hoping that these guys can kind of provide the depth I need this year at power forward. It's one of the things I wish there was a way to look at this, and it might be somewhere here, like if you look at the insights, for instance. One of my viewers tipped me off to this, and there's a lot of things to look at here in terms of like lineup tracking and efficiency and those kind of things for your team. I'm going to try to keep a closer watch on this as the year goes on. Maybe that'll help tell me how these guys are playing out of position. But I wish there was something in the game itself that would tell me how well these guys play at position. And maybe I'm missing it. We'll just have to see again as we go along. I mean, I wish, and really what I'm looking for is if I've got a guy like Perry here playing both shooting or small forward and power forward, I'd like to be able to balance his stats to see, okay, how does he play at small forward as opposed to power forward? And that's a comparison I'd like to see. If you guys know where that might be, let me know. I think in player stats, you can see like some things here, like their shot charts and things, but you're not really getting a chance to see how they do at the position they're playing. So unless I'm missing it, so let me know if you guys, viewers, if you know that, put it in the comments for me. But I think I don't think I've overlooked that. But let's take a look at the depth chart and show you what I'm going with. So we've got this transfer, his first year with us. He's a junior, so unless he transfers out, he's going to be here. He's going to get a lot of time at point guard. We got D'Elia, who was primarily the shooting guard last year for us. If you look what he did, averaged 21 minutes a game, was our leading scorer. So I've got him in there at shooting guard for 24 minutes, balancing the time up with Bailey and Pepper and Ferguson. So, he's going to be just one of 2 guys who are going to leave. Pepper's the other one. So I'm hoping to see some balance. And if some of these guys start performing, and if D'Elia, who his profile is pretty solid, he does want solid minutes, but he's been pretty happy for the most part. If I can risk giving some of these other guys some minutes later in this year to get some development time for them, I might do that. On to small forward, Robinson Jr. He's got still the more solid ratings at that position on the team. Coming off a year where he may have led the team in minutes, gave us pretty solid play across the board, 10 points, 4 rebounds. So I'm hoping that he continues that, and I hope that his ratings get a little bit better. He's not friendly personality-wise, so I think that might have something to do with his team and coach relationships. I'm not sure. One of the things that happened a lot last year, if you got a chance to see my play from last season, A.D. Lee, who's also a small forward, they're both juniors. The only thing that's keeping Lee from that starting role or starting slot is he's currently not rated as high, but when he plays, he gives you pretty good play. 5.3 points in just 8 minutes. I'm trying to give him more play time this year. He's going to get some play time at power forward. And I've got him scheduled for 14 minutes. I hope that helps. But there was a lot of back and forth between these two, Robinson and Lee, in the locker room, and a lot of disruptions. So I'm hoping that goes away this year. Lee still a little bit better relationship-wise than Robinson, but I hope they don't go at each other this year. And then Jennings, I mentioned him already, giving him a lot of minutes at power forward. I'm hoping that he develops. He's got good size for that position, good potential. He's good at drawing fouls, and he is a pretty decent free throw shooter. So I think a lot of his points are going to come from the line, if I'm guessing. But I just hope he's strong enough to give some good play inside like that. If you look at where he's rated, I mean, his scoring is 7 potential, which is pretty good, 7 out of 10. His inside shooting could be a little bit better. So, looking at those two together, good at drawing fouls, but not as good inside. I just hope that with the offensive sets I'm using, that he gets some fouls and is able to convert. And then I think the bigger question was what I was going to do at center. I've got Sandin, who is a returning player. He was a junior. He's got good size, good potential. But the thing that makes me wary about him is his defensive ability. He is not a good defensive. He's not a good defensive center. He's got some good scoring abilities. He's rated 8 in that potential-wise, good inside shooter, but he's just, his defensive ratings right now, they're not good, and his progression, really, the progression he needed to make defensively didn't happen. He went up from 3 to 4 overall defensively, but he's primarily scoring, and I want a good defensive center to start. And so I feel like even though Johnny Parks, he's a freshman, the guy I recruited finally last year, just a 3-star potential, but I feel like he gives us better inside shooting. He's a good outside shooter too. He's got the same potential with scoring, but it's down here. It's his defensive and offensive rebounding abilities, and his defensive ability overall, I think, is going to be a lot better. I mean, he's 7 potential there in a lot of categories, where Sandin is barely 5 out of 10 in some of those. I mean, his rebounding potential is still just 5, shot blocking 5. So I feel like Parks is the guy to go with at center. They're about the same in terms of size. So that's how I'm going with that starting lineup. And then we got some guys like Bailey, Lee, Odell, Pepper, Ferguson. They're going to get some good time. Sandin will get good time, I think, off the bench. Perry, another guy with good potential, a sophomore. He could be in the midst for the small forward next year. So a lot of young guys who I think still have potential, but I would really like to see some of these guys develop into a 4-star player or above. 4 out of 5 on that overall rating, and I'm just not seeing it. So that's going to do it for the setup. Let's go ahead and play some games. I want to get started here and see what we got. So we're going to be starting out with Campbell right off the bat, and I'm really just going to stick to simming this year. I don't think that it's going to make too big of a difference, and we lose off the bat. I don't think it's going to make too big of a difference in play, and I'm really more interested in seeing how this team handles the set. So, gosh, that's disappointing. 2 seasons in a row now where we've lost our opener to a pretty weak opponent. I mean, Campbell 82-73. Looking at the box score, they had a great shooting game. Drew a lot of fouls. Looked like Jennings, power forward, he was their best player here. 13 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds. That's a solid line. But man, Uche, very pitiful at point guard. And then the rest of the team really snuck it up. Sandin looked good off the bench, scoring-wise. Parks, his first start at center, 21 minutes, just 3 rebounds, no blocks. So he's gonna have to get some play time, I'm sure. Off the bench, a couple guys looked good, but that was it. Poor shooting performance. Not a lot of rebounds. I mean, they out-rebounded us quite a bit. Our points in the paint, that's where we got most of the points. And I'm still gearing this team to be an outside team. I don't know if that's going to hold true, if I need to go more balanced as we go along, but I want to get a few more games under our belt before I determine that. Well, I didn't want to do that. So let's go back and sim ahead to our next game. Jeez. That is really disappointing. And I think I don't know if it was highly favored, but we were favored pretty heavy to win against that team. I didn't expect it to be a cakewalk necessarily, but I really did think that we had a pretty easy schedule, non-conference. So here we go against Grambling. They're 0-1. In terms of our scout, I mean, Campbell, let me just view that while I'm thinking about it. I mean, we were heavily favored in that one from our assistant coach who handles the scouting for us. And then against Grambling, we are not favored as much. Actually, Grambling is favored to win this one. Oh boy, it looks like they've got a strong center and power forward. But let's just go ahead and see what we get from it. So we did win. I can see that already. And I wish it wouldn't advance there. I wish it would stay on that date. But how do we do? 66-55. So good defensively. It looks like we held them. Well, their shooting percentage was good. They just didn't get a lot of shots. So for us, it looks like we got a lot more shots. We just didn't convert as much. Rebounds, gosh, they out-rebounded us. So where are we struggling? Jennings, again, was the player of the game for us. A solid line, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 9 points, plus 11. Uche, 13 points, led the team, but just 1 assist. Robinson, just 6 points from him. So Parks looked a little bit better in this one. Sandin Lee off the bench, and Bailey off the bench even. He might be... No, he's not a walk-on. He's a shooting guard, averaging 9 points a game. So he might be the guy to start looking at in terms of who's going to take over at shooting guard next year when D'Elia goes away. D'Elia and Pepper. And D'Elia has struggled so far this year quite a bit. I mean, you look at his game logs here, 2 points, 3 points. That's not what I want to see from a shooting guard when you consider our focus as outside for the moment. So I think with the way Jennings is playing, you know what? I think I'm going to change that. Let's get out of here. And I'll go ahead and take care of this game. I don't think we're going to have another game before next week. Nope. And we're going to have some mail. I'm hoping one of those is from the recruit visit that we had. I hope that's going to be positive. But I want to bounce over here to strategy, and I think I want to go a little bit more of a balanced with this set and see if that works. Shouldn't impact the practice times or the offenses that we're running, but I'm going to see if maybe going with a balanced set for a while changes things. Now, the recruit that I was looking at, now let me look at these scouting reports real quick just to see if we're going to be competitive here. So we're not predicted to beat Stephen F. Austin, Florida A&M, barely 51-49 there. Looks like we're pretty evenly matched except at point guard. Wow. We're not strong. So we got a letter of intent from Ratliff, so that's good. And Reichardt looks like he enjoyed his visit. So let's go ahead and look at the recruits here. So is Michael Smith? I mean, is he not? We're not even on his list, and mainly it's because of location. I'm gonna try calling this guy one more time. See if he's having second thoughts. Okay, pitch areas. I know we. Okay, so that's a big discipline facilities. He's gone. So if he's still available when I get to the contact period, I might pitch him on playing time. I'd like to really see him improve. We're now in the evaluation. I can scout this guy live. I don't want to waste that much money on him, but Condell, we're third on him. I wonder how much it would cost. Man, these guys are... It sucks that we don't have much in-state here going on. But Reichardt, we're at second on him. I'm going to give him a call. He's still, moving it up a little bit on the recruiting. I want to see, like, school location. Come on. So that's not as important to him. Team prestige is not a big concern. Academics, not a big concern. How about his parents? Okay, so he doesn't have to worry about where he goes to college. I'm gonna scout this guy live because he's in state. It's not gonna cost much. I want to watch some film on him as well. And then let's go back over to small forward. Phillips, this guy's coming out of nowhere. Holy cow. Yeah, and that's the dilemma you have because now, we're second on his list. I know it's a gamble going early, but I went with Ratliff, and, I'm still happy he's moved up a little bit even since the last time, I think, in his rating. So as long as he stays there, I'm okay. But shooting guard, I'm still having a hard time here. So Peterson, we're sixth, and he's moving up. Let me see if I can get a few more things with from him. So program facilities, it's very important. Academics, not as important. So I can scout this guy live. And I may go ahead and do it because I need to get one of these two. I mean, Phillips, we're not even on his list, and his ratings are going down. So let's just go ahead and scout him live and watch some film too. And then that'll be it for recruiting this week. Now let's go ahead and get some more games going. Michigan State third in the country right now. And now we're playing St. John's. This is probably one of the tougher opponents I think we've got early on. Let me look at the scouting on that. I would be willing to bet they're heavily. Yeah, they're favored to beat us from our assistant coach 70-30. So this would be a big, maybe not a big upset, but this would be a pretty big win for us if we can do it, and we can't. So we're 1-2 already. I'm starting to worry about this team. Maybe I just wasn't ready for the Big Ten yet. All right, so how did we do? I mean, we did terribly. So 70-49. Defensively, I think that's where it's coming. I mean, we've got every team we've played against so far has been able to shoot over 50% from the floor and out-rebound us. So I know it's only one game, but I really think I still need to focus on outside because I think that's where our strength is with Robinson and D'Elia. If they start getting hot, and D'Elia had a pretty decent game here, 11 points. Same with Robinson, 11 points. I mean, we're gonna have to win it from outside. We're not gonna win it with the centers and power forward that we have. Although Jennings has looked pretty good overall so far. He's coming off a rough game here. His coach relationship's not that great either. But I think I am going to kick it back to focusing outside. So let's, even though one game is not a lot to tell. Well, let me see how we did in the paint. Oh yeah, they dominated in the paint. So let me just go back outside because it's not going to be heavy outside, but I do think flex and high post. I mean those are more geared to outside anyway. All right, so let's keep playing. Let's see if we can get something going here. Really, not seeing a whole lot from this team though so far. Memphis ranked 10th in the country, but they're 3-2. I may take a look at that before we end this episode. At least look at the Big Ten standings and the overall rankings. So now we got Wright State. This is our first away game, I think. Let me double check. Nope, that was a tournament there for St. John's. So we're on the road against Wright State. And scouting wise, we're not heavy favorites in this one, but we've got some advantages, I guess, outside in our guards. So moving back to focusing on outside, hopefully we just have a good shooting performance here. We haven't seen it so far, and we lose again. Oh my gosh, we're 1-3, playing just a really easy schedule. 84-92, and went to overtime. So gosh. D'Elia had a good game, a lot of points at the free throw line though. Parks, good game scoring, but just one rebound inside, no blocks. I expected to see more blocks from him. Sandin off the bench, he did have a block. He's looking a little bit better than Parks at the moment. So I don't know. Maybe I may have to rethink how I'm doing these guys. But Sandin's getting more points. I think Parks, or more minutes, sorry. Parks looks like he got in foul trouble here. Jennings, another bad game from him for the most part. Although, 7 points, 5 rebounds, maybe not too bad. Robinson, not too good. And then the bench, Odell didn't look too bad in terms of scoring, but we were pitiful shooting here. 20 for 49. Uh, we drew a lot of fouls, but once again out rebounded. So we are just not looking good inside, and I think that's really hurting us. So we gotta find a way to get some wins on the board. I mean, you can't really, with that Big Ten schedule, as tough as that conference is, you're not gonna go out there and win 12 games or 14 games with this team. They're just not good enough to do that. So this is going to be a very big test this season. And let's see. We're going up against Drexel. I'd be willing to bet that they're favored, but no, yeah, they're favored. So we are just really looking bad. Not the team that I thought we would be early on here. So now we got Florida A&M. We're at home. We need to win this one. We really need to win it. I think this is one of those where we were barely picked from our yeah, we did. We won it. We were barely given the advantage from our assistant coach who scouts for us. I'm hoping this is going to be one of those where we scored a lot. I just hope the shooting was good in this game, because the only win we've had was a low scoring one. This one looked really good. That's a good box score. 20-point advantage. And it looks like it was a team play because, looking at the best performers, we don't have anybody showing on that list. So individually, looks like we were pretty good defensively, out-rebounded a team finally, shot over 50%, where 50% from the three-point line. And then individually, Jennings, another good game. Is that his second? I think that's the second time he's been player of the game this season, and second time for his career. So he's getting the layups or the dunks inside. Looks like that's primarily where his points are coming from. He is not a good outside shooter, knew that, but not too bad from him. It's another good rebounding game. I wonder, he should be getting a little bit happier. At least he's happy with the team. Robinson struggled a little bit. D'Elia back to scoring. Again, he was our leading scorer last year. So he's had a couple good games here in a row. And then off the bench, Sandin once again looking like the better scoring center, but not, looking at Parks, he had 3 rebounds, a steal. Sandin had none. He had 1 steal, but no rebounds at all. Those 2 guys are just not showing me much. It might be that I need to, once again in recruiting, start looking at centers. Whew. I don't know if you can really win with a weak center in the Big Ten. I just don't know if you can do it. So other guys, Perry and Pepper, look pretty good off the bench. Pepper, a senior, I just don't know where this guy fits in on this team. He primarily played point guard for me last year because I didn't have depth there, and looked okay for the most part. But I just think he's odd man out on this team. I really need to get Odell some play time there at point guard and keep him in the mix. He's still pretty happy though overall. His relationships are good. So let's move ahead. I'm not sure who we play next, but I'm hoping get a little bit long on the episode. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish our non-conference schedule here, but let's see if we can get 6 games down, and then we'll take a look at how the rest of the conference is looking. And maybe take a look at how some of the teams looking overall. If we can get back to 500, that would be a big boost here. And we're playing Stephen F. Austin. I know that our coach had us scouted pretty far below them in this game, but I hope that this is one we can sneak a win in here. That would be great if we could, and we do. So we're back to 500. That's good. And once again, I'm hoping that we saw some good shooting here, and I hope it's a high-scoring win because that's how we're going to compete. We're going to have to be able to score a lot of points. And so let's take a look at it. 75-53, not too bad. So Jennings, once again, was player of the game. Led in scoring, had 5 rebounds. He's been solid, I got to say. I mean, his point totals around double digits is fine. I mean, assists, steals. I mean, defensively, he's looking pretty good. I like what I'm seeing from this guy. He's getting a lot of minutes, though, so that's contributing, I think, to his numbers. But looking at his logs, when we win, so we've won 2 in a row, and he's played really well. We won against Grambling, and he was decent. Was definitely plus minus there. So I think he's going to be an important player this year from what I'm seeing. We just dominated this one defensively, except for maybe rebounds. It was close, 35-36, but we kept them from shooting. They were below 30% in three-pointers, so that's how we won this one. Parks looked good. This was probably his best overall game. Gave us 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 9 points. He got a lot of minutes, though. He did get a lot of minutes. And then Sandin off the bench looked, he looked good too. He wants solid minutes as well, man. It's just, I think I may have to switch these guys up. I really do think I may have to do that. I just had a feeling that Parks was going to be so much better defensively that he would need to get the nod. But I think when Big Ten play rolls around, I'm going to switch these guys. I need Sandin in there, I think, for his experience. So it'll probably just be on looking at the depth chart really quick. I'm probably just going to flip him. Sandin's got 14 minutes now. I think I'm going to give him 26, maybe 24, and see how that works out. But go back to the box score here. D'Elia struggled in this one. He got into foul trouble, just 2 points. And then off the bench, Lee, Bailey, Pepper looked pretty good. Shooting was not great, but it was good enough to get the win for us. So I think we're getting close to the end of the... Yeah, we got Drexel, Purdue, and Marshall. So we got 3 more games. I'll play those offline before we get started. I'm hoping that we get a couple wins out of that and go into the Big Ten play at least 500. And I'm also going to need to look at some recruiting things this week, see how that's going. But let's take a look at something here that I haven't really been paying a whole lot of attention, but let's look at the insights and see how we're doing. And now this is going to show how we're doing against the full NCAA Division I, but I'm really interested to see how we look in like lineup tracking. I mean, who's really doing the best job for us? And it looks like one of the things I'm seeing right off the bat, and I know I say that a lot, and it's basketball, but hey, look at this lineup right here with Odell, Pepper, Perry, Lee, Sandin. They are giving me pretty good play here when that lineup's in there. And then right after them, it would be Uche, Bailey, Lee, Perry, Parks. So I'm looking all automatically what I'm looking at there is I think Sandin is probably going to be a little bit better in terms of center. So I'm going to make that change. But let's look at the plus or minus. I mean, when I got the starting lineup, which is Uche, D'Elia, Robinson, Jennings, Sandin, they're not too far behind. They're not too far behind, and in some ways, they're giving me not as good field goal percentage, not as good 3-pointers. I mean, this is the lineup right here: Odell, Pepper, Perry, Lee, and Sandin. Wow. So that's very interesting. I didn't think I would see that because you've got Lee playing power forward out of position, and you've got Perry playing at shooting guard. I think with that, no, small forward. I think that's going with Odell at point guard, Pepper at shooting guard, Perry at small forward, Lee at power forward. So 2 guys out of position, and they're playing better. Man, that's interesting to see. I'm gonna keep an eye on this and see what it looks like as we start our Big Ten schedule. That is a really cool thing to keep tabs on, and I really wish I had been paying attention to this already. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing. In some ways, I think it's telling me that our starting lineup is efficient for the most point. We're outscoring our opponents when that starting lineup is out there, but not as well as the backups. So, I mean, that's just, the minutes are about the same too. It's not something where it's like, the percentages look good because, maybe you're getting more minutes, but the minutes are the same and I'm getting that kind of play. Wow, that's blowing my mind. I'm going to have to keep looking at that. And then these are some other things to look at that I haven't really picked up much. Look at our prestige going down there. But that was the main thing that I thought would be an advantage under that Insights tab. So that's really fun to look at. I'm going to be playing around with that quite a bit. And then I want to go back to the dashboard, make sure that the relationships are pretty good. I mean, we still have a few guys. Perry, he's probably wanting more minutes. Yeah, his coach relationship's down. I don't want to lose this guy. He could transfer out. Robinson Jr., he's the starter. I don't know. I just think it's because his personality's not good. He's struggling really at the position this year. And then Jennings, man, why is he unhappy? It's getting a little bit better. I think it's probably because his personality's not good. But he has been the most consistent scorer on this team. He's leading us in points. He's leading us in rebounds. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. I just feel like the depth chart's going to need some adjustment, and I'm with 3 games left before conference starts. I'm gonna make those adjustments before I get to this next game. But I'm gonna play around with it a little bit, and then it'll probably be a different look when we come back next episode. And next episode's going to really be starting out conference play, and hopefully getting 5 or so games to start. I mean, we got a pretty, it's going to be tough regardless playing in this conference. Looking at the teams looking good so far, you've got 3 teams in the top 10, but really that's it. No other teams right now are in the rankings, which is kind of a surprise, but that'll change, I'm sure, as we go along. Villanova and Arizona off to a good start, and some teams here that look like a surprise to me. A lot of SEC teams, though. in the rankings as well. But, Colorado, Brigham Young, UC Santa Barbara, I wonder how they're going to look as we start getting into conference play for a lot of these teams. That'll do it for this episode. Don't want to get too long on it. I'll do some things offline with that depth chart and then see how we look these next 3 games, and I'll be back next episode to get started on the conference play. It's going to be a challenge this year. This could be my last season with this team if I don't start making some improvements. But as always, thanks for your support. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next episode.